Aha. Well, that's good news. I think you should be all hearing me. I can see green lines in front of me. Marvelous. Right. Uh, Hello everyone. How are you all doing? Welcome. I'm guessing quite a few of you joining. Oh, I tell you what, I better do. I better do this. I better go. I better do the old quote tweet. We are live action, right? Uh, Crossrail Rail Natter Extravaganza. Marvellous. This is exactly the content you want, isn't it? There we go. Marvellous. There we go. Tweet. And probably then just pin that tweet. Look at that. It's good stuff. Marvellous. Let's get everyone involved and joining us here. Hello, everyone. Oh, my goodness. So, yes, the sound. I'm here. It's on time mostly. Raphael saying Mr. Beck must be turning in his grave. Rule number one was look at the system and work out what design might suit it best, and not stay with the design and squeeze everything new into it. Yeah, absolutely. We'll get there. We'll get there. So, hello. Right, let's do this thing. Tonight we are going to be talking about why Crossrail isn't a tube line, why the tube map needs rewiring. I mean both actually, and some other London woes. We're generally going to kind of chat about a variety of things tonight. Nice relaxed episode, I think. But yeah, we'll get there. Firstly, the COVID stats fresh off the press. I've stuck a yellow line in for the timetable change, but to be honest, I don't know if it's going to make any difference actually. If I just squiggle over here, so road is pretty stable at around about 100% generically, but it's obviously there are some shifts within the types of transport. Bus services look fairly stable as well, and I'd say that rail again pretty stable at around the 80% mark. It's around 80 to 85% there. Lovely. Yeah, but not much to report. We might see, we might see a bit of a tail off if the timetable hits hard, but no particular evidence that it is at this point, which is good news actually. Good news. The news. First of all, yeah, I've been on various news things talking about this today. 25,000 plus RMT members say yes. Now this is majority Network Rail. A lot of people talk about train operating companies because no one's doing their research, but this is a majority Network Rail. So this is track engineers, signallers, safety critical staff across Network Rail. As you know, okay, the desk jockeys are more likely to be represented by TSSA, but the RMT covers a lot of frontline staff and some back of house staff. And yes, the train operators are also included within that, but the majority of it is Network Rail. And yeah, they've said yes, and we should be supporting them. This is not a union battles where I'm more, I'm less immediately willing to just fall in line, allowing it to run more effectively. And it's not about safety; it is about kind of the role of staff within that arrangement. And frankly, it's a battle they're fighting, but that's part of valuable modernisation and making the system run better. Not least the introduction of the 777s. This is not about that. This is first and foremost about the cuts to the rail network, whether it's service cuts, whether it's job cuts, whether it's cuts to projects that have been kind of long planned. First and foremost, this is all about cuts. So, yes, so I would say absolutely support the RMT, and indeed I was on the news, BBC Radio News, BBC Radio Leeds this morning, chatting to Richard Stead about it. Thanks for having me on, Richard. We had a good chat. I had a bit of a long chat with Radio York. I don't know when that went out though. So yeah. Actually, I was talking about Crossrail on various local news kind of local radios yesterday, but I don't know which because I did like the pre-record thing with an agency that then spits it out. So I might have been popping up all over the place yesterday. But today I've been talking about unions and about the strike. So solidarity to the RMT. Yeah. Next, talking of which, talk about those cuts. This is one of kind of several articles I've been spotting. I kind of a local churn feed. This is dside.com, referring to kind of North East Wales. And yeah, just saying calls for train service between North Wales and London to be reinstated to pre-pandemic levels. It's just a reminder how little of the network How many parts of the network are still seeing reduced train services, not least with the new timetable. This is bonkers. People want to be travelling by train, and we should be allowing them to. So it's bad news if we're going to keep until December running this reduced timetable. And I absolutely hope that the December timetable is a ramp up. There are challenges at the moment with training. There are challenges with driver training that's making it very difficult to run a full timetable. And people do want reliability and to be able to know their train is definitely going to arrive. But it absolutely needs to be fixed by December. It's just not good enough for it not to be fixed by December, because we need people to be choosing the train, and they're being that choice is being taken away from them at the moment. It's incredibly frustrating. So that's that. Bring back our trains, say various local news sites and local business organisations and blah blah blah. Oh yeah. Hi Richard Clinic here, doing a little tweet, very interesting, which is that Alstom are testing one of their 180s that's been retrofitted with Atlas 2 European Train Control System, ETCS, and then being tested at Old Dalby. This is test. Basically, does anyone remember the digital railway? Well, it is still happening. And all of the literature that said it could potentially transform capacity has disappeared because it never was going to. It's essentially a like-for-like replacement in terms of capacity in most cases. There are some benefits, certainly. But the broader benefits are about just modernising the way that we control train systems. It's and kind of probably the main benefit of what is essentially another description of in-cab signalling and all the other stuff that's associated with it. It's not the removal of line-side equipment. Although that's a sort of a kind of a contributing factor to the main benefit. The main benefit is that we cannot renew all of the signalling systems across the UK or across GB that are currently reaching life expiry cannot be renewed quickly enough with conventional signalling. So we have to do something different. We have to innovate. This is a situation where innovation is kind of a correctly applicable word. It's not some gadget band nonsense. This is just the way that we need to be kind of modernising signalling across the country, and because we can't conventionally re-signal the whole network quickly enough. We just don't have the time. We don't have the resources. We don't have the people. We don't have the bits. So it's good that this is being tested. And quietly and in the background, East Coast re-signalling, introduction of ETCS on the East Coast Main Line is happening. It's just been they've decided to make much less of a fuss about it and kind of just do it as a bit of a rolling programme. Yeah, good that. Anyway, so there you go. Thanks, Richard, for keeping us in the loop on that one. Here he is, Elon Musk. Is a nasty piece of work. We've always known this, but now we know he's a nasty piece of work, and absolute confirmation. If the early interviews with his first wife weren't enough of a red flag, we now have pretty solid confirmation that he is a sexual abuser and a nasty piece of work. Because a SpaceX flight attendant has said that Elon Musk exposed himself, propositioned her for sex. The documents show this, and the company paid $250,000 to shut her up. Rather than letting her speak, so that's come to light, and I'm sure that there's going to be a continued number of things kind of rising up. All of the red flags were there, folks. These red flags, when women, particularly women, talk about red flags, they're not kind of doing it as a joke. It's the fact that they have experienced that these sorts of people are bad news, and the way that he treated his first wife was just all of the red flags raising up, and all of the way he's treated subsequent wives or girlfriends has also raised red flags. Folks, these red flags are also representative of the fact that everything else he might have to say is also utterly tainted by his warped, smooth brain. So, just do not give him the time of day. He is nothing he has created is good. He is he's a valor stealer from other people, other people's kind of hard work. He's not a self-made man. He was started out rich. He got a load of angel investment money from his dad and from others. Just that he's not a hero. He should be none of your hero. Anyway, Elon Musk. An interesting little thing here from HS2. Actually, I don't often post kind of repost HS2 stuff, but I quite like this. This is a nice this is quite a nice little bit from their Twitter feed via New Civil Engineer. Saying that that it's one of their kind of construction sites in South Kilburn is their first completely diesel-free construction site, which is quite cool. It's worth pointing out. It's kind of an interesting thing going on. So it's quite cool. More of that. This is all these little things. There are some serious downsides. I've just given a statement. That's not why. Just given a quote about the fact that the new Euston proposals mean that the connecting railway line that was going to be used to remove spoil is now going to have to be not only at great expense bulldozed again, but they can't use it at all for spoil removal, or certainly aren't attempting to think about how they can, because of the single stage construction basically precludes the use of that, which means that all the spoil is now going to have to be removed by road, which is a calamity and a half. So you win some, you lose some, but generally, if that was a kind of a government imposed bad decision, but all of the other stuff. All of the other bits and pieces that are being done are positive, because they're ultimately reducing that carbon footprint of the project. So it's good stuff. It's good stuff. The March of the Unions, yes, lots of the unions. I think it's a big TUC march. It is. It's a big TUC organised march on the 18th of June, down in London, I think. I would be also. It's not very nice of them to tag me. Thanks TSSA. Solidarity. Hi TSSA. Yeah, my union. Yeah, lovely. Hi chums. I'll be getting you on. It's 125th year, and I'll be getting someone on from the. In fact, I know exactly who I'm getting on from the TSSA. Hopefully to talk about TSSA and other things. But anyway, I digress. If you can go and join them. Go and join them in London. There's loads of details at tuc.org.uk/demandbetter. There's just, with the cost of living crisis, with the railways getting squeezed, all the unions are saying, look, we need to build up, find every channel we can to show this government that we're not, that enough is enough. And so that's the point. We demand better. Enough is enough. Go and get involved. Frustratingly, I can't be there. Otherwise, I'd have said all of us as a rail natter should collect and generally be a little rail natter cabal as part of this, but sadly I can't be there. It doesn't mean you shouldn't be. So feel free to do a little rail natter gathering as part of this. But sadly I can't join you. Hopefully there'll be another one later in the year, and I'll be able to join that. I mean, this is going to be the year of industrial chaos and industrial strife, so industrial action. So anyway, yeah. So, Crossrail, here it is. Lovely Crossrail, as you can see here. The connections in one direction going up to Chalfont and Latimer, and then the other going across to Reading. Oh wait, no, this is from 1991, isn't it? Oh yeah. There's this Shenfield at this end, right? So I guess it's this is something different. Oh no, it's the old Crossrail. Yeah, well, that's right, it's Crossrail. Happy days. And we're going to talk about Crossrail and the whole. Just all the noise about Crossrail in the next 45 minutes, hopefully. It shouldn't be too long an episode, actually. I'll keep this one as tight as I can. But chuck your messages to me, at me in the chat, so I can spot your questions, and I will see you all after the intro. Welcome to tonight's Rail Natter. The In-City 225 fades away into black. Marvellous. Yeah, well, firstly, before, that previous image is, of course, from episode 85, when we had John Elledge on talking about the a chaotic history of the early Crossrail proposals. So, if you want the lowdown on some of the chaos of early Crossrail proposals, then go there. If you want to imagine what could have been had the project not been sort of chopped and changed. So, let's get my miniaturized muggins up, shall we? Where am I? I'm up in the corner. Hello, everyone. Yeah. Oh, you know what else I need to do? Oh, put these on. There we go. Get the lighting right. Oh, so let's start with the fun stuff, i.e. the problems. We're going to start with the problems. Do send your questions, chuck your messages in. Detour is pointing out, Deirdre's saying that the reduced timetable really hampers the ability to make the train plus ferry route viable to Ireland in comparison to flying. Yeah, absolutely. Frequency is freedom, folks. So let's start with the problems. We're going to go from the annoying stuff to the better stuff. So it's purple mode. We've engaged purple mode. The problems. Well, that's the first problem. This sort of tweet, and it wasn't just coming from the Prime Minister. What is this sort of tweet? Well, let's just quote the official Downing Street Twitter account here. As the Elizabeth line opens to the public, we know it's not just Londoners that will reap the reward, but the whole country, because better transport grows the economy, levels up opportunity, and creates jobs. Something like that. That's Bojo there. Let's just pick out the whole country, because better transport. So there are several things to pick out here. Several things. Number one thing It's not just Londoners that reap the rewards. Well, this might not be a lie, but I can tell you right now that the last thing everyone outside of the M25, or at least beyond the reaches of Crossrail, want to hear is that this new line that they aren't getting is somehow benefiting them. It's unbelievably patronising. But then the whole frustration is saying the whole country, and then saying, what then tops it off is saying, because better transport grows the economy, levels up opportunity, and creates jobs, at the same time as having cancelled unknown volumes of projects. HS2 Eastern Leg, Northern Paris Rail, refusing to bury Piccadilly Underground, expansion of Piccadilly Underground, refusing to, delaying Portishead connections, not building the link, the north, kind of the link between, bypassing the Dawlish line, so building a new main line down there to connect Devon and Cornwall properly. Not all of the things that aren't being done. All of them, refusing to do any sort of freight upgrades, ignoring Felixstowe and Eton twin tracking, all of these projects that are just on the background, Hope Valley upgrades, all of these things, the rolling program of electrification, all of this stuff. Transport does grow the economy and level up, and all this wonderful stuff. And it's amazing that politicians, the point I was making when I was being interviewed about this is, you think, oh, they must just not know this stuff. They say, they read the line and then they don't think it. But then with all of them saying this so consistently, you realise, no, they do think this. They want to ride on the glory, but they just don't think that the rest of the country merits this kind of investment. They just actively, ideologically, do not believe that this level of investment should happen anywhere else. And lots of people point out, well, this is London made its own investment. Yeah, they did, because they're empowered to. Treasury is trying to take that power away from London, and Treasury refuses to give that power to anyone else. So this is less about the specifics of where that money is coming from and more about the fact that the Treasury does not want anyone else to have the power to spend the money or to spend the money at all. Like, this is the fundamental point, right? So this is absolutely key. So I got very angry about this, and I knew these sorts of tweets would appear, and it wasn't just coming from Bojo, it was coming from people across the country. They were like, oh, but the supply chain was across the country, and yeah, fine, but the supply chain for all this stuff could be across the country. As John Bull pointed, there was a good piece that was in the Manchester Evening News with me and Andy Burnham and John Bull. And Gareth off of the Twitter was making it, then did a kind of a thread pointing out that Crossrail costs an extra £4 billion because of the fact that all those skills had to essentially be built up from scratch. That's extra money that's being spent that doesn't need to be because of the fact that there isn't enough of this stuff happening. What everyone wants, all the sensible people want, is for us to be doing this stuff everywhere at a much greater pace and a greater scale. What we don't want is people saying, the thing is, if London gets better transport, that benefits the whole economy, and ultimately that means that, the whole of the UK is benefiting. Tell that to someone who's stood at Birchwood Park waiting for their once every 2 or 3 hour train to get into Manchester Oxford Road. It's just not, it's just absolutely not acceptable. It's incredibly bad discourse, so don't do it. What else? Oh yeah, speaking of which, obviously talked about Crossrail too. This is an interesting map. I think Alex Hearn put this one up. This is a map from 2004, and it shows the kind of what could have been stuff, which is really interesting. So you've got there's just a lot of interesting stuff. You've got kind of this sort of what was supposed to be a bus rapid transit system up here, which is really interesting. East London Transit. You've got Greenwich Waterfront Transit here, which is supposed to be a thing. It confuses me why it's not like, I don't know. But basically, it's kind of, I think it's like bus rapid transit systems. There's East London Line expansion here. This is before the Overground existed. This happened, actually, did this sort of happen? I don't exactly. I think it did. I think this did happen as well. So Overground obviously happened a bit more than is shown here. But what else is going on? You've got there's more bits of so there's the lovely DLR here, of course. There's the marvelous DLR, kind of proposed extensions, of which some or all of various bits of those have been happening. So that's all good stuff. Stratford International for the Olympics. That's exciting. They never actually named it that, did they? But anyway, what else is going on? You've got here is. So this is Thameslink shown here. Yeah, Thameslink kind of still not open. Shown in kind of a weird purple with the split line. Interesting to show that they're showing Crossrail not only in a different colour but also as a solid line. So this one they're kind of showing it as a tube line, which is interesting. We'll get to that, folks. So it's kind of an interesting map that's worth diving in and having a look at. I quite like this. Also, they call it a Eurostar connection here as well, which also never happened. So I quite like the looking at what could have been questions, because you get to pick up, like, things change. This is also a funny one. Crossrail link here. Whoops. Things change, so actually proposals don't necessarily make sense from a while back. So you always have to reevaluate. So it's always sensible to reevaluate things. But the Croydon tram extensions did not happen, and should have. The tram system's good. There should be more of it. But anyway, it's kind of interesting to look at this, and it kind of makes the bigger point of that, like, have a long term. Oh, the other one is, what's interesting is it shown on here. It's interesting that the Battersea. It's Battersea what I'm on about. The Bakerloo line extension isn't shown on this, which is definitely a necessary project. It does show the Northern line as being split into two things. That's very true. Cross River Transit, is that? I don't know. It doesn't. It does. Does it show it being split into two things? No, it doesn't show it being split into two things. That's something else. That's Cross London Transit, which I presume is like that kind of half tram proposal that raised up a bit. In any case. It's good fun. Watford extension of the Met, indeed. Yeah. So, all good fun stuff. I thought that was just fun to throw up. It's the problems and the challenges, of course, is that I put this up to say, like, London has not got a lot of the projects that London merits getting as well, because it's had funding stripped from it. The fact that London was doing fantastically, TfL was doing great, until government decided, in a way that, like, should not be the case and isn't the case in any other city. Westminster decided that TfL had to be self-funding, that London had to be self-funding for absolutely no sensible reason. Why would you do that? It just doesn't make any sense. Anyway, just a reminder that Treasury's intent is to break Britain. It doesn't want Britain to ideally, it wants Britain to stop existing and to just be, all it wants it to be is a number, and that number is the value of house prices. That's all it cares about. Anyway. Who else watched the International Tram Drivers Championship over the weekend? Talking of trams, yeah. Thanks, Ditoro. Yeah, good point. It was tremendous fun. I should put that in the news. Actually, it was tremendous fun. It was nice to see Alex Caldwell Kelly, of friend of the show, also getting increasingly excited by the various events. Yeah, that was good fun. Anyway, right. What's the other thing? Here's Caroline Russell. Hello, Caroline. It's always important to. It's interesting to listen to what Caroline's getting up to. Caroline does some really great stuff. What is the problem with this tweet, though? This bit. To make the line totally accessible. A lot of time for Transport for All. Hello, Alan, and everyone at Transport for All. And they did campaign really hard for Crossrail and to fix a lot of issues. There's a lot of good stuff that's been done on the whole route. Step-free access onto the platform, sure, but the line is not totally accessible. This is a thing that's well worth us reminding ourselves. The line is not totally accessible. Because of politics, let's cast our mind back to when the contract was let for Crossrail's trains. If we remember before that, Thameslink had just won the contract. Siemens had just won the contract to deliver the Thameslink trains. So there was only, the idea that there was any actual competitive, capitalism is the idea that capitalism involves competition in anything. It's just nonsense, because it's ultimately always, at this scale, state funded. It's all just power politics. So what actually happened was, Derby were the only people who were going to get that contract. So the idea that it was competitive was nonsense. So Derby got it. They just used their Electrostars. Sorry, the Aventras have a fancy name, but they are just Electrostars. They're just Electrostars, folks. The only thing that's different about them is that they have a non-gangwayed cab. That's the only difference. They are Electrostars. There is a far greater difference between the first and last generation Electrostars than there is between the last generation Electrostar and the Aventras. Anywho, the trouble with procuring an existing train is that existing train continues to have all the problems that the previous ones did, and there are two things on that front. One of them is the actual train control system, which was bobbins, hence why a major contributor to why Crossrail's taken so long to open. Number two, the train floor is set to about 1150 millimeters, which is about 200 millimeters higher than the standard platform height in the accepted standard platform height of 915 millimeters. So rather than going, we need to procure, Derby, you need to come up with a new train, a bit like you did with the subsurface stock, come up with a new train, and that new train will have a lower floor to enable level boarding, and then you can start selling that platform. You can use that new train as the basis for all of your other trains, and they'll all be level boarding, and it'd be fantastic. No, unfortunately, government are cowards, and this goes for the previous government as well. Previous colour of government as well as this colour of government. They didn't do that because at the time it would have been Bombardier lobbied hard, saying no, you can't do that. It costs too much. We can't do that. Actually, they didn't really lobby. Basically, government didn't have a clue. Bombardier just said, yeah, we've got a train that works. Boom, do that. And then the Electrostar was the one that was chosen. A massive lost opportunity because the R&D money that was spent developing the Aventra, the Electrostar the Electrostar 4 or 5, because it's basically hardly a... Actually, Alan's in this. Alan's here. Here's Alan. Hello, Alan Benson. Good to see you. The money that was used to develop that could have been used to they could have just slightly upped their bid because they were going to win it anyway. They could have just slightly upped their bid to include the R&D for a low-floor train, and then Bombardier would have had low-floor trains, and we wouldn't be having half the battles we're having in terms of all of these, parked in a siding because the train control system doesn't work. Trains sat, all these Bombardier, now Alstom trains, sat doing nothing, that could have been low-floored. So we could have had trains sat doing nothing in sidings broken, but at least they'd have been low-floor trains. So yeah, really, really frustrating that decision was made. And what it means, what the ramifications of that are, and this is going to be noticed and picked up by a lot of people increasingly now that people are travelling on it, is that if you get on expecting level boarding, get on a train in the central section where the platforms have been raised, by the way, to meet the train floor, absolutely the wrong way to do it. That means that you'll get on level access, happy days, independent travel, and any of the trains, any of the platforms, any of the stations outside of the central section, you'll be stuck having to rely on a ramp appearing. This is just hopeless. This is the 2020s, and we're opening a railway like that. It's just mind-blowing. And what that means, by building the central section platforms at that additional height, Heathrow as well, of course, but the TfL should have just said, sod you, we're lowering the platforms. The challenge with that is that it means that the platforms in the central section will be incredibly expensive to correct. What you have to do is lift the track, which potentially results in you needing to rebore bits of the tunnel at the vertical curves coming into the stations in the bored tunnels, because the gauge clearance might not be right, and the wire gradients will all be off, to then lift the track to get the track 200 mil higher to actually raise the train to match to kind of raise it from the platform train, the offset, the height being 1150 as it's set now to 915. Just incredibly frustrating. Just such bad decision making. It's one of the regrets of the RSSB that they didn't put their foot down more on this. I was privy to some of these discussions because I was working on the design of the stations outside the central section, and I was angry and frustrated hearing about it then. I'm even more angry and frustrated hearing about it now that we know what we know in terms of how level boarding can be achieved. So buy Stadler, folks. Buy Stadler trains. That's the moral of that story. Yeah, and you can learn more about level boarding and understand exactly how this works and how it can be achieved by going back to episode 31. Is level boarding on trains really that hard to achieve? It has captions. So do that. Oh, right. The next section. That's all the grumbles. The grumbles out of the way. Hello, 171 people. Crikey. That's all the grumbles out of the way. Let's talk about the name. What is this railway line called? Is it the Elizabeth line? No, it isn't. It is not. Yes, that's the official name, but come on, it's a stupid name. It just doesn't make it. It makes me annoyed. It does, and no one's going to call it that. They're all going to call it either the Liz line, the Purple line, or they're going to call it Crossrail. But the thing is, Crossrail also isn't the right name for it. Why am I saying that? No, Crossrail is not the right name for it. I've deafened everyone with buzzers there. Crossrail is also not the right name for it because it's a bit of a generic name that could be applied anywhere, really. And I quite like the idea of Crossrail. Everyone's going to call it Crossrail, rightly fine. So that's the name that's going to stick. Most people are going to call Crossrail. But really, what is the name that it should have been? What do I think that the name should have been? What do I think? Thameslink 2. This Thameslink 2, everyone. It's Thameslink 2. Thameslink is great. It should be TfL's. Thameslink 2, which is what Crossrail is. Thameslink 2 should have been the name. I'll get to explaining why. But big fan of Thameslink 2. This is what it should be, and it should all be branded as the same thing. And I think Thameslink is quite a cool brand. Brand the whole lot as Thameslink. So Crossrail, rename it to Thameslink. Thameslink, happy days, and then you've got a unified brand. Keep the purple because the purple's nice. We can keep it as the purple train. But Thameslink and Thameslink 2 should all be purple. Crossrail 2 should then be called Thameslink 3. Yes, that's what I think. Oh, so there we go. That's the name. I've said my piece. Shout your thoughts at me. Long Branch Mike, hello, Long Branch Mike, hello. You're right, Crossrail does have history, and people are going to call it Crossrail, but in terms of what the name, I kind of think the name should have been, I think it should have been called Thameslink. Think it should have been called Thameslink too. And I just think, no, Thameslink doesn't need an extra brand. No, just basically swap the word Crossrail or Elizabeth Line with the word Thameslink, and then that's the branding done. Purple's great. Let's keep the purple. The purple's fun. But it should be Thameslink. Simon, I know they have completely different fare systems. That's stupid. I'm saying that's stupid, and they shouldn't. I'm saying that Thameslink and Crossrail should be incorporated into one system that is Thameslink, and they should match, and the ticketing should match. We'll get there. It comes back to kind of what we were talking about a little bit last episode. It wouldn't get confusing. You just Thameslink needs to become part of TfL. It's just merge them. It's fine. The designation. Well, what is Thameslink? Is it a tube line? Is it a metro line? Is it a subway? What is it? Here's some nice pictures from Ella. Hi, Ella. Thanks for sending your pictures through. There's some nice pictures. There's some nice pictures of ETCS in action. Lovely. Look, you see these little arrows like on High Speed 1. It's very exciting. Nice little door handle as well. Don't get me, when I'm shouting about Derby, by the way, don't think that I'm shouting about their ability to build a stunning train. These trains are, in terms of the physical train, look fantastic. Philip Hay created a really good point, which was that the thing that Derby have struggled with, just as they did in the past, is that in the past they struggled with the transition from steam to modern traction, and they have been struggling for a long time with the digitalization of the way that trains run. That's not just signalling; that's the on-train management systems, all of the kind of ancillaries that just are frankly fundamental to the way a train works nowadays. They can make a fantastic. The craft people, the workers on the shop floor build fantastic looking trains. The build quality of these trains is absolutely superb. They're brilliant trains. The bogies are fantastic. The ride quality is great. It's fantastic, but that's the brains that doesn't work. But anyway, Ella, thanks for these photos. They look great. Martha Lauren, Thameslink 2, the Rail Warrior. Yeah, exactly. More pictures. Look at the scale of this thing. It's massive. Huge scale. It's an enormous system. Absolutely enormous. And whilst it looks, perhaps to the untrained eye, like a tube, it isn't really a tube. But then, this. Okay, so this is you can't really see this because it's a small res version and it's super pixelated. I'm going to enlarge it because I can. There we are. Let's do it. This is what we're going to be doing. We were going to be doing this episode actually, weren't we? We were going to be going through and kind of doing my patented rail or transit system categorization process. What Crossrail is, it kind of fits into all this, but actually, to be honest, yes and no, it isn't a tube line officially. I mean, okay. But actually, I don't think it matters that much because ultimately it's about what it achieves and what it can achieve. And it's people managing the expectations of what it's going to achieve that's kind of more important. So there are two ways to answer this question. Is that tube doesn't really mean anything. It's not a designation that means anything. So I don't think it's relevant whether it is or is not a tube. The question of whether it's a tube or not is really related to this. It's related to what TfL actually think it is. And it isn't a tube line because it's got the twin line associated with heavy rail that TfL use. In terms of whether that's relevant to its function as a public transport system, well, it's not really, is it? Here's the nice map anyway. Lovely purple. Yes, so exactly. The tube is just a made-up name, exactly. Anyway, like it doesn't really matter that it is or is not a tube thing. I'm not too fussed about the fact that it is or is not a tube. Like officially, it isn't a tube line, by the fact that people call the tube lines the other things, and TfL have kind of de facto not made it one of those. But it's not really important. And why is it not important? Well, let's talk about overall categorization of the London transport system, of the various London transport systems, kind of broadly the TfL ones, but Thameslink I'm including in here. Let's kind of include it as that, right? So here is there's lots of chat going on here. Oof. Yeah, Richard Smith is saying that railway people criticise the general public calling it a tube, even though the tube is literally just a nickname made up by the general public to begin with. Yeah, absolutely. There it is. Yeah, the original name for the Central Line was the Tupney Tube. Thanks, David Shepherd. Yep, that's it. Oh, hi, John. Oh, what have I missed? John, what have I missed? You missed your question. Well, I'm going to roll up and see what John's been saying, if I can spot. Did I ever do a rail natter on Thames? No, I didn't actually. You're right, I did not. I should do that, shouldn't I? Anyway, right. So here is is this the exhaustive list? I think it mostly is. Let's get rid of the dangleway because that needs to be taken off the TfL map. Let's just get rid of that. Sell it off. Turn it into its own stupid thing. It's not a thing. Or don't sell it off actually, but just don't show it on them. It's stupid. So here we go. So what am I talking about? Key to lines. So there are lines. Elizabeth, it looks weird that it's there with line when all the others don't. It just looks weird. But then Elizabeth looks weird. You know, Victoria's fine, but Elizabeth looks weird because the Queen Elizabeth is alive. Maybe we should say this is actually refers to Eliz number 1. And maybe that's where we get away with it and just call it Elizabeth. But it's just a bit weird that it's got line on it. I think that was a bit of a strange boo-boo. I don't know why they did it. I don't know where the decision was made. I'd love someone to actually explain to me why that judgment was made. Anyway, here is the taken straight off the tube map. Here's the collection of lines that make up the TfL transport system. So here's another way to look at them. So I've kind of broken them up. Okay, sorry, the circle is a bit difficult to read, but that's the problem with picking a yellow, using yellow as a line color. But here are all the various sort of lines. And so here we've got the kind of the heavy rail systems, Thameslink, the Elizabeth line. What is this rubbish? We've got the kind of the deep tube, as they're kind of more technically known. So the deep tube here. So that's the Bakerloo, the Central, the Jubilee, the Northern Bank branch, the Northern Charing Cross line. These are two separate. They're separate, folks. These are separate lines basically now. The Piccadilly, the Victoria, the Waterloo and City. We'll get to the name of the Waterloo and City momentarily. Those are the deep tube lines. Then that we have here are the subsurface lines. So these are the kind of the original kind of subway, the original kind of cut and cover lines for the most part. So that's the Circle, the District, the Hammersmith and City, and the Metropolitan lines. And then what else have you got in the TfL system? Well, you've got the DLR. There's a lovely DLR there. You've got the you've got the Overground, which I think is a fun name. I quite like that it's called the Overground. I like that. That's great. And then you've got the Tramlink. You've got the trams. Here they are. Long Branch Mike is pointing out that the dangleway is OPEX profitable. It's very low electricity costs, and rising and falling gondolas cancel out their weight. That's an interesting point. Keep it with TfL. Show it on the map, but I'm skeptical as to many of its value. Like, fine, it's just an annoying thing that's a legacy that London's going to. It's a reminder of hubris, so keep it there. Whether it's on the tube map or not, I don't know. To show it as a just de-emphasize it somehow is kind of what I'm saying, I suppose. Anyway, so what of all this scrubbing? So let's introduce what I think is a thing that should have happened a while back to make it a bit simpler for people not really sure what's going on, because this is an intimidating number of names, missing the point that people actually find it easier to look at numbered and named lines. So I think we introduce a naming scheme. I think it's long overdue that we have a naming scheme. So we have the X's here, which is kind of nice for a couple of reasons. You have, because they're kind of like express, if you like, they're quite fast, so they're express, they're extra capacity, they're all these things that are slightly above and beyond the current underground. So, okay, fine, you've got the X's there. The underground, so the deep tube, let's call it the underground, let's actually call that the underground, and call those the U's. I think it's worthwhile differentiating the subsurface lines, so call those the S's, because they do behave differently, they do slightly different things, they take less time to get down to because they're not as deep down. Their reason they're different, so we should call those the S's. The subsurface line, the S's. I think the DLR should be called the E's because it's an East London thing. So call them the E's. There it is. I mean, I suppose you could call D is also something I'd take as an option. I'm not pretty about this, but given that it's kind of a bit beyond Docklands now, I decided to go with E. I quite like E. So, yes, I know the Gospel Road to Barking Line's the Goblin, but that's kind of moot point. Obviously, you've got the Overground, that's nice and easy, that's the O. And then the T's for the trams. And indeed, this doesn't have to be restricted to Croydon Tramlink. Build more trams. Trams are good, folks. There should be trams in lots of other parts of London. The buses are high intensity in lots of places that would be better served with trams. So build more trams. #build trams. So, okay, we've got this, but can we take this further? Can we do more things with this? Because we've got Crossrail. You didn't notice I bunged Crossrail 2 in there as well. There it is. Well, yeah, we can do that, which is change the line of, change the colour of Thameslink, incorporate Thameslink into the system, fine. No, I don't think we should have D for deep line because I like U as underground. I like having underground and overground and subsurface. I like U. D, I think, is maybe a little confusing. I like U because people are like, oh yeah, that's the underground. Fine. So we've got there. So we've nicely clustered up. We've got the kind of the X's there, bunged in there. Fine. But what else could we do? We could for starters, deal with the northern question and change the Charing Cross branch and call it, I don't know. Okay, this is just an example. Call it the Fleet Line. Yeah, call it the Fleet Line. So you've got the Bakerloo, Central Jubilee, Northern Fleet, Piccadilly, Victoria. Fine. What else could we do? Oh yeah, you notice something else here. Get rid of the city off the name of the Waterloo and City, and get rid of the city off the name of the Hammersmith and City. Just call them the Waterloo and Hammersmith lines. Like, it's just much easier. Or find another name for them. But the reality is, just call it the Waterloo and Hammersmith. Like, they don't need the and city bit. It's just confusing. I get confused between... I mean, I know that they're different, and it takes me a second. But these two have a similar name. Just get rid of the city bit, folks. Just get rid of that. What else can we do? Well, there are other things we could do. Like, for example... standardise the colours across the underground and the subsurface lines. Ooh, controversial. So, I've gone for blue because I think red buses, iconic. I've gone for blue because I like the blue. So, we could go for standardising this. So we've got the purples for the kind of the heavy rail stuff. We've got blue for the underground. We've got metropolitan, pinky, sort of purpley colour for the subsurface lines. Yeah, the Metropolitan fans will be happy. And then obviously, DLR, overground. And the thing that then allows you to differentiate between what services are running where is the fact that you can start numbering these or lettering or kind of coding these. So that's what you could do. But to be honest, I'm not particularly prissy. Even if you retain the colours and the names of the thing, I think that having codes for these systems would be really helpful. It'd be really helpful to guide people who are, it'd be supportive for people who are colourblind actually out on the network. It might help with the map, which we'll get to momentarily. Yeah, Martha, you're right. The wayfinding colours the colours are pretty good for wayfinding if you're not colourblind. So I do, and yeah, you're right. Piotr Kramer, yeah, the underground trains do have blue on them. It's true. So I don't think the blue is necessarily a crazy idea. I do like the legacy of the colours, and I'm not saying we just eradicate them, but yeah. So there's that. So there's lots of people saying colours than having numbers everywhere, but yeah, I think the colours are a little bit they're a little bit archaic from an accessibility perspective. I don't think we necessarily need to totally convert, but I think do both. I think we need to find a way to start incorporating letters, and it would mean that rather than having some of the kind of the names of things, you could start just having nice square sort of, you could have square things of like what these are, and people would recognise by the colour, fine, but others might recognise by the code. I think there's an opportunity there. I think there is an opportunity there. That's my gut feeling on ways that you could change things. But I think having this numbering system would be really, really useful. And yeah, again, then you could, if you're really wanting to turn it into a proper classification system, you could have like B1 for the buses, etc. And also for the non-TfL Suburban Rail Network, well, I'd go with O. I'd call them all overground because I like the overground. I think that's quite a nice, sensible thing. People associate, the overground generally has been a pretty good success. So yeah, I think you go with. I do think as well that there's lots of bits of the Suburban Rail Network around London that should be TfLs. It might not be a very good thing for them cost-wise at the moment, but I do think that ultimately, it kind of comes back to what we've, the things that go into TfL and what TfL should own. Kind of comes back to what I was talking about last time about who should be controlling what let's get rid of my face momentarily. Who should be controlling what in terms of the different transport systems and the different kind of levels of branding across the network. So yeah, for me that's kind of important. And yeah, you're right, that would require fares stuff. But yes, there is a black and white tube map, actually. Yes, there is a black and white tube map for colourblind people. You can download it, in fact. In any case, so here we go. So, no, we've got, yeah, we could have MS, yeah. Lots of people call National Rail Services in London overground, whether they're TOC, whether they're train operator or well, National Rail or TfL anyway. Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, I think... I mean, there are going to be, lots of people say, well, you can't tell, like the DLR being one colour, it's like, oh, you can't tell what the services are in different directions. I'd argue that becomes increasingly less important as we go through, and this is going to come to the next point actually. That becomes increasingly less important because people are using journey planners. A huge number of people are using journey planners. Very few people are really in a very detailed way planning their journey off the back of the just using the mapping exclusively. A lot of people are, go on Wi-Fi. Just holiday makers, they'll go on Wi-Fi and they use Google Maps to work out how to get back and forth. So I think that having homogeneous colours isn't as big a deal as other people make out for things like DLR and Overground and the trams. I don't think it's as big a deal. You could do slightly different shades. If you wanted to slightly differentiate on the map, you could do slightly different shades. But at that point, you're starting to really fight a battle if you start incorporating more Overground. There are only so many shades colours you can fit that usefully print on a map in CMYK, right? Anyway, right. The map. So this is the chat that a lot of people have been wondering about. What are we going to do about the map? Because, folks, the map. This there's a reason why I did this poll, right? And it's relevant to what we're going to talk about. I did a little TFL poll, and I wanted to understand, given that it's a major part of what's on the map and steers the shape of the map, I wanted to know how many people care about the travel zones. I'm one of the people who I don't. 2,000 people, which is not bad going actually. 2,000 people voting in this little poll, so it's not scientific, but it's kind of interesting. So we've got this important TFL poll, and not necessarily not necessarily the majority, but sort of a sizable chart. I'd say like. Maybe the thing is, I have the show results instead, so it's not quite fair to say it's 65%. It's a little bit more than that. So it's more like kind of looking at this, it kind of looks like it's sort of 75 versus 25%. So I'd say about 3/4 of people don't check zones. I've never checked zones on the tube map because I don't live there. I don't need to worry about like major building up of costs because I'm generally there on an ad hoc basis. So I don't really care. I just do the journey that's quickest and tap in and tap out with my credit card, and it's fine. It's all good. The map, folks. So let's get the map up, shall we? I'm going to briefly go big face so you can say hello. Look, it's me. Hi. I'm a mustache guy now. I did it, folks. Let me just do this and go and get the standard tube map. Get it up and have a look at it. Let's do this. And go back to small face again. Here we are. Here is the tube map. And yes, firstly, IKEA have really gone to town with branding it. Good grief. But just look at it's getting look at the mess that is Liverpool Street. Look at this. This is a mess. I think the accessibility markings are a real mess as well. They're messy in terms of making a real mess of the map, and they're messy in terms of it being very difficult to actually for kind of disabled passengers or passengers who want to kind of understand accessibility routes. It makes it very difficult for them to get what's going on as well. I think it's a real mess. You look at Euston and the area around. Look at the state of King's Cross and Pancras International. Look at that. It's a mess. You go down to Paddington. What the hell's going on there? It's just it's getting very cluttered. And there's Thameslink. Rightly, it should be on the map. Thameslink should be on here. Obviously, it should be purple. But it's it's scrappy. It's very scrappy. I don't know why the DLR is shown with a split line. I think it should be a chunk line because it's kind of anyway. Yeah. We have very squiggly Thameslink squiggling its way round the word Cannon Street there, and down. Yeah, there's anyway. Hey, Denmark Hill. Hey. It's just a mess. Look at Kennington as well. It's just all getting a bit scrappy. Now. Also, you can see all the zones. The zones mean that stuff does weird things. So the zones add a bit of extra clutter. Not a dramatic amount of extra clutter, but a bit of extra clutter. So the reason I did the poll was, do you just get rid of that? Do you get rid of the zones, and does that make things a little bit clearer, a little bit easier to manage and deal with? There's a lot of information on the tube map. Now, do you know what's even more scary to look at? I'm going to go briefly big face again. Hello, I've gone big face again. You get to look at my mustache while I desperately go in here and pick another map. So, do you know what else is an issue? If I go to the London Rail and Tube Services map, which is, again, it's chaos. Let's go small face. Here is the London Tube Rail and Tube Services map, and this one is... well, it really is a bit chaotic. Cripes. So there's there's oh golly. So you've got the Crossrail is now shown as a thick line, by the way, on this one. Yeah, so you can see that it's got all of it's all this. It's getting messy down here. You can see it's getting busy. I mean, this is quite a useful map in terms of working your way around, but it gives an idea of how messy it would be if we did overground all of the kind of the non TfL kind of rail services in London. It would be a real challenge, and it comes back to the point that was made by Raphael, I think, at the start, is that the Denmark Hill extended. Where is the Denmark Hill blob? Where is Denmark? Yeah, Denmark it is confusing. Yeah, it comes back to the point that was made at the start, right? Which is by Raphael, which is that Beck. The reason Beck did a redesign of the original map is because it wasn't fit for purpose. I'm under no illusions that it's easy to replace this thing, right? There's a reason it hasn't been replaced, and it's because no one has yet come up with a better option. And there are some ones that I like. No one's yet come up with a better option. This is a mess, folks. Look at this state. This is just a mess. Just fuzz up your eyes for a moment. This is a real mess. It's very difficult to navigate. It's a really intimidating mess of spaghetti for anyone who's even slightly colorblind. This is just hopeless. Lots of dashed lines, dotted lines. It's just very, very confusing. You know, the standard tube map. It's the same story. It's just way too much confusion. And what do the dashed lines mean? What do the it's a mess. It's a real mess. The London Connections map, London's rail and tube service maps, is not a TfL product. It's drawn by Doug Rose of FWT London. Thanks, Lee Render. Very, very useful little tidbit. Here we go. The pecked dotted NR lines are actually an eyesore. They're just a bit confusing. The little dangleway icon is getting steadily bigger. Yeah, is that Emirates, do you think, getting more assertive about their... Oh yeah, the little light, there it is. Yeah, so it could just be a dashed line, I think. It needs to be like very much minimized in people's eyes so people don't notice it. It's yeah, no tube trains on the tube lines. Yeah, this is an annoying addition. Why on earth is that thing? And then obviously IKEA appearing everywhere is ridiculous as well. But TfL is strapped for cash. That's quite a clever way to make a bit of cash on these. IKEA will have paid a lot of money to have this put on the map, so fine. Campaign for North East Rail. Frankly, the Glasgow subway map needs updated first with all the investment and expansion it's receiving. Lol. So anyway, this is chaos, folks. I'm not a fan of this. I think it's just Harry Beck. Beck would be turning in his grave. So, but what else can you do? There are other options. I'm going to go big face again. Hello. The reason I'm going big face is just so that it's a bit neater on the stream, so you don't see other things going on. So there's another one. There's various individual maps. So I'm going to show you that in a second, which is what you could do with individual map. There's the where are we? There we go. And then this. That's what I want. Sorry, I'm just getting up a load of things. So small face. You could, for example, create a bespoke. So here's you could if you want accessibility, you could create a bespoke version of the map that prioritizes accessibility. This is friend of the show Ray Thomas's Step-Free London map. And it takes the accessibility stuff and it turns it into a dedicated, ignore the places you can't get in and out of. They're irrelevant. There's just no point showing them, so they're gone. So you can see all the places that you can't get to. It's a much more scarce map, isn't it? Take note. But you can see here what the network looks like for people who need to understand accessibility. So that's reasonably useful. There's the Oyster card but not contactless section there, which is also quite interesting. Yeah, various bits and pieces here showing. So this is the Step-Free London map. So that's an interesting way to do it. You could go for the kind of dedicated maps that just show one system, perhaps. So you start simplifying it again, pull things out onto their own. But then the whole point is that you have interchanges, and does that get confusing? And how do you do that? There is someone else has attempted another. You totally redesign it, or do you not totally redesign it, but essentially start from scratch and kind of attempt to start kind of unpeeling the way it looks. One of the ways to do that is here we have. Yes, we do. We have Yug. In fact, I'm going to go to the bottom to remind myself. What's Yug's last name? It's a Serbian name. Yug. I think it's probably Yug Serovic. Is it Yug Serovic? Hard to tell because of the lack of, but I think it's possibly Yug Serevich. It could be Yug Kerevich. I'm not sure because of the anglicization of your last name, Yug. I'm sorry. In any case, here is so there's a nice article that goes through the details, and this is the kind of the updated map that looks very similar. It holds a lot of similarities. It's still cluttered, but it's an attempt to make it easier to navigate. This is my favorite. It's not really an alternative. This is my favorite amateur attempt. Well, he's not really an amateur. He's not an amateur, but it's my favorite attempt to kind of show what could be done with broadly the same kind of design language, but kind of making some differences. You see, they've downgraded. Yuga's downgraded the Emirates airline there. It shows all the other lines on there, so there's some benefits to it. It's gridified it a bit, so it's a bit less squiggly. There are some fundamental things that have changed on it that I think are quite smart. The parks look a bit naff. I think they're a bit naff, even though it's kind of a nice touch. But I think this is one of the better. I think this is the best of the fully realized alternatives that I've seen. Right, Yug goes through lots of nice stuff. Talking about pulling. It's kind of kept the legacy aesthetic, so it's familiar. It got blobs for interchanges. It's kind of expanded central London a bit. So there's a regular authority. There's kind of they go through. You go through the logic here of explaining what the kind of how to derive an attempt to create a new system. So I find that quite interesting. It's an interesting attempt to show what can be achieved. It's just a really interesting little article I'd recommend. So there's some cityscape stuff in the parks for a bit of intuitive wayfinding, and they've got rid of Yuga's got rid of zone shading, which I think is interesting. There's an information hierarchy, and there you go. So there's some interesting stuff there to kind of go through the options of that alternative there. Yeah, there's Yug Serevich. So that's one of the options. And to be honest, there are an absolute plethora of options, huge numbers of different options out there. But I think what you do is, firstly, you perhaps do a bit of a design competition. So you get some people to submit alternative design options. And then the winner of that competition would then collaborate on a long-term basis to actually get the... and TfL could perhaps enter the competition themselves, with trying to maybe shake up the existing map, but be more radical about it. But I think you go for a competition, you then go for a rigorous design process. You're not going to get this done overnight, because one of the issues, for example, with Yugs that you've got here is look at the text. The text size it's not perfect. It's smaller. This is a key challenge. Getting text sizes right, getting accessibility right is really difficult. Yeah, so lots of things to worry about there. But I think one of the things that might help would be doing, whether you did it with my super simplification, or whether you just went for the kind of the standard stuff but with the letters. I think this could help with a different type of map. So there are some. I think that might help. But don't get me wrong. Don't misinterpret me. This is do not mistake this as any kind of suggestion that a new or substantially modified tube map would be easy to make work, or just easy to make. I do not think that. The team who put this together did so under incredible constraints of, they did not have a budget to redesign the whole thing. They didn't have the remit to do that. They were remitted to keep it broadly looking the same, redesign it to fit everything that's got to be on there. They had Thameslink being brought onto it. All these things, making it incredibly complicated, increasing volumes of information that people want to have represented on there. It's a real challenge. The real challenge. But the unforeseen consequences are extensive. So this is not a situation where you can move fast and break things. The map it's something that requires a lot of delicacy and care. But that's where a competition could be good. Send it out for a competition, see what people come back with. If it turns out that competition doesn't really come back with any better solutions, anything that really works, against a series of specs, write the spec of what they have to do with the current map. Distribute it, let people get involved, see if anyone can do it better. If they can't, fine. The existing map wins out still. But I think that's what should be done. I think there should be a competition to update it. Indeed. And so, it's only half a disclaimer. Do not mistake this as a suggestion that a new or substantially modified tube map would be easy to make work. It wouldn't. It absolutely would not. Good grief. As I say, highly complicated issue. Me hand-waving on Twitter saying I think the map's not very good anymore is one thing. Actually coming up with a viable alternative is quite another. There's one last thing we need to talk about though, and I'm gonna open up for questions. So if you've got questions, chuck them in my direction. The last thing I'm gonna open up is the joy. Okay, all the politics to one side, the lack of of what's happening elsewhere. Fundamentally, everyone across the country should be celebrating Elizabeth. Oh my god, I nearly said Elizabeth Line. Oh my goodness. Everyone across the country should be celebrating Thameslink 2. Not because it personally benefits them, but because it's brilliant that London's getting great infrastructure. Like, yes, the rest of the UK should be getting this too. But let's not be angry about when it does happen once in a while. The fact is that it needs to be happening everywhere else as well. So there is joy. And the person I want to, I think very nicely represents joy tremendously is Rylan. Oh my goodness. Who would have known that Rylan... one of the funniest non-comedian people out there. I can't remember who said that, but it was quite a nice quote that nicely represented it. Thanks, Dina, for telling me that quote existed. I'm not going to steal your glory on that. But anyway, lots of love for Rylan. Jealous of everyone on the first Elizabeth Line trains today, and yep, I'm a train geek. Massive kiss. Rylan is one of us, folks. Rylan is one of us. Very, very nice. Rylan, come and join us. Come on the show and tell us about how much you love trains. It'd be a joy to have you on Rail Natter. So yeah, it's nice. Everyone, like, I'm gonna go big face. This is good. It's good. Having Crossrail is good. It's fantastic. I'm excited to be riding on it. It's great to see new big infrastructure being built in the UK. We just need to do more of it. We need to do much more of it. Joseph June asks. Here we go. Oh, in fact, let's jump up to Richard Smith. Give it time. Diamond Geezer has pointed out the previous version was itself an improvement on earlier bad maps, with subtle improvements over the last major change to fix many issues. Yeah, for sure. Joseph June. Are there examples of the tube map recreated in other cities' map styles? Yeah, there are a few, actually. You can Google them. John Elledge is your guy for a lot of this stuff as a London/map nerd. So there's loads of good fun stuff that you can find. But just Google it. There's loads of fun examples. There's one in a style of a German like U-Bahn map that's a lot of fun. I like that a lot. Blobby Tables, what would you say to the criticism that competitions are unpaid labour? Well, they can be. But ultimately, they're also an opportunity for people to do something a bit different, a bit fun that they might not otherwise. They're an opportunity for... And when it comes to big paid consultancies, it's not really free labour. The point is that it's a big consultancy doing this. So the people are still getting paid for their time. They just do a project. They'd be on a bid code. So it's not free labour. When I bid for projects, it's not free labour. I'm getting paid to do it. The fact is that the overheads of that company pays for it. So it's not free labour. It'd be design houses doing it. If an individual wanted to get involved in the competition, great. But individuals are frankly not going to have the resources to compete. Or maybe they will, but I doubt that individuals are going to have the resources to create to really be viable to enter the competition, because ultimately they're going to have a team that gets involved in this. If someone did, great. But the fact is that it's going to be design houses, architecture firms or graphic design firms that are going to get involved in a competition like that. So it's not going to be unpaid labour. What else is? No, I didn't go to visit. I haven't been on it yet. No, I'm going to wait until all the weirdos like us have stopped travelling on it, and it's just normos to actually see what it actually feels like, how busy it is, how well it's used. So I've not been on it yet. Let's see. Where I've lost. I'm sorry. I'm going down through the chat. Joseph June. I asked that because another city style could work better. It could do potentially. Yeah, that's certainly a thing. And in the competition, you might have like Berlin's sort of urban transit design house might just get involved. Why not? That's the sort of thing that you might see happen. There's a website with loads of different map versions. It's somewhere. Yeah, that's for sure. Ed Fielden. I met so many happy MTR staff yesterday who are just so happy the core section is now in public service. Amazing to see how quickly it's become part of daily life for commuters. Yeah, for Londoners rather. Yeah, it was really nice. So Peter Hendy posted a photo on Twitter, and it was really nice to see just everyone looked bored. Like they're just on their phone. There's just pictures of people just like this, And I love that, because it's just immediately okay, all the nerds are gone, and it's just people using it as if it had always been there. I love that. I absolutely love that energy. It's so good. So it's really nice. Let's see. Matt Reed, complete random question. What's the Lego behind you two right behind my head? Oh, that would be the Lego P-Way design team. Look, it's a Lego P-Way team. At some point, this might end up getting auctioned off as part of... Where is it? Come here. Yeah, there we are. Look, there they are, the Lego P-Way team. They've got their Roble hand tampers and what's probably let's face it, if it's P-Way, it's probably a lunchbox. But there we are, Roble hand tampers. They're all facing the wrong way, apart from that person. Anyway, yeah, they are. Who knows what I'll do with that eventually? Don't worry about it. Nice question, Matt Reed. Thanks. Richard Smith says, the copyright issues would be interesting with the competition, unlike something made by an employee like Beck. TfL wouldn't necessarily just own the rights, nor get in perpetuity. Richard, they would, because that would be a fundamental part of the competition. That would be the point. TfL rightly should own what the new thing is, so it would be a collaboration. And that would just be part of the competition. You just state that up front. Charles Ian, on the tube map, it's miles ahead of what Tokyo has for its metro rail map. Yeah, someone shared the Tokyo one, and it was horrifying. It was so complicated and expansive and scary, yeah, for sure. Richard Smith, on the first train, someone, yes, of course you were on it, Richard. Someone asked, why are all the enthusiasts here, and was told it was the first train. How did they not know? Yeah, because they were just getting the train. It was like, oh yeah, it's a train I'm getting. Yeah, it's fine. It's just amazing how that works. Matt, so you can't buy those the Lego P-Way team, but you can do is assemble them at your nearest Lego shop. That's what I'd recommend doing, because that's how I made that. Oh, lots of questions, lots of thoughts. Oh, it's 8:05 already. Everyone, I think that's quite enough of me waffling, to be honest. But the most important thing is that it's great that Crossrail is open. That's the kind of the takeaway I want to go here. So, this, I know it keeps being a little late. Sorry, everyone, but it does get uploaded. This one, hopefully, will be a little sooner to upload than the previous one. But at least I am up to date. This is, of course, available on all podcasting platforms, in theory. If it breaks, shout at me. But yeah, thanks to all our audio-only listeners. Hi, folks. The Patreon, to keep this happening, you can throw a penny or two at me on a regular basis. Thanks to all of you who do this, because it's not exactly the easiest of times, but it does enable me to sort of justify my time that I dedicate to it. Because this is not my day job. My day job is I'm a 9-to-5 railway design engineer, and so I do this in my own time, sacrificing the time that I would otherwise be spending with my lovely wife or kind of hanging out with other people, or so the fact that it does provide a little bit of additional income helps justify that. And so thanks to all of you. The Patreon supporters make it all happen. So say thanks to the Patreon supporters, everyone, but also you can be one if you like. Patreon.com/GarethDennis. There are some treats, by the way, coming up. I'll tease those momentarily. You can get merchandise at masket.co.uk. You can get a We Need to Abolish the Treasury mug. You can get a face mask. COVID's not over, so yeah, the face masks are definitely still worth buying. What else is going on here? Let's see. PayPal.me/GarethDennis to throw loose change and abuse at me if you wish. And the Discord server, where all this lovely chat has been happening. GarethDennis.co.uk/Discord. Hello, everyone in the Discord server. Two things that have already gone up is the recap, two episodes of recap for the Archipelago series. If you don't know what that is, watch the recaps. Particularly watch the quick recap. This one is about 6 minutes long, and it's fun, and hopefully you might know it'll help you explain what's going on. Watch that one, then watch the episode run through, which is a bit more me getting carried away and just like throwing up the thumbnails from each episode and talking through what happened. That's more of a reference if you want to know what's happened in a particular episode. Like, it's not particularly riveting, I'll freely admit, but just have it in the background, and you can sort of remind yourself what happens in each episode. But the best one, the one that I'm proud of, is the quick recap, which is quite fun, and it has fun graphics, so go watch that. And the next actual episode, the relaunch, will be happening soon. It's coming soon, folks. I can't confirm the date quite yet, but it's coming very soon. It's going to be on Besquicklehausen's channel, which is cool. Jay hopefully will be joining us and having a chat. But that's not the first thing that will be happening, because if you are a Patreon supporter, I will be opening the save in the newly updated Transport Fever 2 at some point over the next couple of weeks. I'll announce that on the Patreon only channels in the Discord and on patreon.com. But yeah, you can watch. So it'll be a kind of a 55.5 in terms of episode numbering for us to go in, and it'll just be through Discord, so it won't be anything fancy, but it will open up we'll open up the game, we'll open up the save, and we'll see if it works. And if it doesn't, you'll see me sobbing in stream, which should be a lot of fun. Robin, I'm also very excited about the fact that the Archipelago series is back. I'm very, very excited about it. Tom is asking where we can get my colour scheme. I'll put it on Twitter. But also I'll drop the image. Tom, I'll drop the image onto the Discord, yeah, for sure. Just prompt me. Next week, that's coming soon. So next week's episode. This is a very exciting one. Possibly a pre-record, not 100% yet, but hopefully this will be fun, because we're given it all went very viral for some strange reason, with lots of local news sites deciding to repost it everywhere, which was fun, I'm going to do another episode on the drilling down straight into the new north-south main line for Wales. There are going to be maps, there are going to be timings, there are going to be costings, all the good juicy stuff that you'd hope from a good Crayon-y episode. So this is kind of a bit like the Crayonista kind of extension episode. But we're kind of based on our network growth episode that we did, which was, I think, episode 80. Was it 85? Or I can't remember when it was. But it was the episode where we looked at what the Welsh Railway Network should look like. Well, this isn't going to be an expansion of that episode. So tune in for that one with all your thoughts, questions, and so on. That's going to be a lot of fun. And there might be some interesting follow-up press pieces around it as well. So, yes, I'm looking forward to that one. That should be good fun. Everyone, thanks everyone for joining. Here be dragons indeed, Deirdre. Absolutely. It's a fun one. It's a fun lines and lines and lines and lines and lines. Lots of lines, lots and lots of lines. I'm looking forward to that one a lot. Everyone, thanks to everyone who joined. Hit like and do subscribe. I'm desperately approaching the 10,000 mark. So if everyone who watches is new, if you want to just like. I never say like and subscribe because it annoys me and it's like a trope, isn't it? But actually, if you could hit 10k subscribers, that'd be quite good. I'd quite like to do that because that's like a bit of a barrier. I think when people say when you hit 10k, the algorithm starts doing things. It'd be nice to have some more friends joining us for our real matters. In any case, chums, I will see you next week. I'll see all of you in the Discord sooner, I'm sure. Have a lovely weekend. Take good care of yourselves, everyone. Cheerio! Cheerio!